On the day of the wedding, Ada thought she had won a family. She wore her lace gown with quiet joy, clutched her bouquet tightly, and smiled at her new husband Ebuka. But it was his mother who sent a chill down her spine. Mama Ebuka hugged her tightly in front of the guests, but her eyes remained cold. Her voice was a whisper in Ada's ear, soft but sharp. "This family has rules." Ada smiled politely, unsure of what that meant. She didn't dwell on it. After all, it was her wedding day, a day she had dreamed about since she was a child. But in the weeks that followed, those 5 words would carve scars into her memory. After the honeymoon, they returned to the family house. Ebuka opened the gate with ease, his hand resting gently on Ada's back. But there stood Mama Ebuka, holding a broom in one hand and a half-filled bucket of water in the other. Her face wore a stiff smile. "Welcome," she said. "You came back. Good." The house was tidy, but the air carried the bitter scent of disinfectant and something else, resentment. Dinner was waiting. Jollof rice, Ebuka's favorite. But when the plates were served, Ada noticed hers held only 2 burnt pieces of meat and a spoonful of dry rice. Ebuka laughed. "That's just how she plays. It's her way of showing love." Ada smiled weakly, but her stomach and her instincts disagreed. Later that night, Ada wrapped herself in a towel after her shower, humming a soft tune as she stepped out. She reached for their bedroom door, but it wouldn't open. She knocked once, then again. "Ebuka!" No answer. She walked toward the living room and found Mama sitting there, watching a Yoruba movie. "Ma, please. Is Ebuka with you?" she asked. Mama looked up without blinking. "Your room is the couch. Until I say otherwise. You're not his wife." "Not yet." Ada blinked in confusion. "Ma, we're married. It's been 2 weeks." Mama stood, dropped her remote on the cushion and stepped closer. Her tone was heavy with judgment. "You think wearing white makes you a wife. Marriage is not a dress. It's service. It's patience. It's respect. And I have not seen any of those in you." Ada swallowed her shock. That night, she lay on the living room couch with her towel still clinging to her damp skin. She didn't cry aloud, but the silence of the house echoed louder than tears. She hoped Ebuka would come out, lift her gently, and carry her into their room like he used to do in their old apartment. But he never came. The next morning, Mama called a family meeting. Ada sat on one end of the sofa, her hands resting nervously in her lap. One by one, Mama's sisters and cousins arrived, followed by her church prayer partner. No one from Ada's side was present. "I want to talk about my daughter-in-law," Mama announced. "She wears trousers inside the house. She doesn't kneel when serving food. She doesn't greet properly. And she hasn't called me Mummy since stepping into this house." Ada opened her mouth. "I'm trying, Ma." "Trying?" Mama scoffed. "When I married Ebuka's father, I knelt every morning to greet his mother. I swept the whole compound barefoot and washed her undergarments with joy." The room hummed with murmurs of agreement. Ada's ears burned. Ebuka, who had been silent, finally stood up. "Mum, please." "Enough," he said gently, trying not to raise his voice. Mama's face snapped toward him like a whip. "You're defending her. The woman who put onions in your egusi." A gasp rippled through the room. One of the aunties chimed in. "She doesn't even know how to cook our food properly." Mama nodded firmly and faced Ada. "Until you prove yourself as a wife, you are a guest in this home." Ada felt her chest tighten. A guest. In the house she now shared with her husband. Her heart sank as Mama picked up a piece of paper and read from it. A list of rules. The list was longer than Ada expected. Wash Mama's clothes by hand. Wake up by 4:30 a.m. daily to clean the compound. No trousers allowed in her presence. Ask permission before cooking. Do not eat until everyone else has eaten. Each line stabbed deeper. "These are simple expectations," Mama said. "If you were raised well, this wouldn't be difficult." Ada sat quietly, nodding slowly, even though her spirit rebelled. That night, she folded clothes in silence, her hands trembling. Ebuka avoided her gaze, lying on the bed and scrolling through his phone. "Did you know about this list?" she asked softly. "It's just temporary," he murmured. "Just try for peace sake." So Ada tried. She woke early. She scrubbed floors. She washed clothes until her fingers wrinkled. She cooked carefully, remembering every spice. But Mama always found something wrong. "This stew is watery," she'd complain. Or, "Why are the tiles still dusty?" Ada bit her tongue and nodded. But inside, her sense of self withered. Ebuka started staying out longer. He'd come home smelling of strange perfume and give excuses. "Work kept me," he'd mutter, barely meeting her eyes. One evening, she confronted him. "Are you seeing someone else?" He laughed. "With which energy? You and my mum are enough headache." Still Ada tried again. She made Ebuka's favorite, bitter leaf soup. She spent the entire morning washing the leaves, seasoning the meat, boiling everything just right. The aroma filled the kitchen. She felt proud for once. But then Mama walked in. She lifted the pot lid, sniffed, and without a word, carried it outside. Ada followed in confusion, her apron still tied. Mama stepped into the backyard and poured the entire pot onto the ground. The hot soup splashed against the sand, sizzling. Ada gasped. "I don't eat food from strangers," Mama said calmly. Ada's mouth quivered. "I'm not a stranger. I'm your son's wife." Mama turned, her eyes cold. "You're right. You're not a stranger. Strangers leave. You are a mistake that refuses to pack out." Her words slapped harder than a hand. Ada couldn't speak. That evening she didn't cook. She didn't sweep. She sat still, staring into space. The next morning, her clothes were folded neatly and placed by the door. "Go home to your mother," Mama said flatly. "Let her retrain you." Ada looked at Ebuka. He was on the couch, scrolling through his phone like nothing had happened. He didn't say a word. Not even a glance. Ada stayed. Not because she had the strength, but because she had nowhere else to go. Ada sat alone in the bedroom they once shared. She stared at the faded photos on the wall. Smiling engagement pictures. A framed wedding moment where Ebuka held her close, forehead to forehead. Where had that version of him gone? She didn't have parents to run to. Her aunt who raised her was deep in the village and could barely manage her own needs. Her only brother was abroad, unreachable in the middle of a work transfer. She stayed, hoping something would shift. That Ebuka would remember who they once were. But each morning felt heavier than the last. Ebuka grew quieter with every passing day. He no longer asked how she was. No more goodnight kisses. No more "have you eaten?" Instead, he came home late, dropped his shoes near the door, and disappeared into the bedroom. Once, Ada tried to hold his hand as he lay beside her. He turned away. "I'm tired," he whispered. "Please." She felt more alone next to him than when he wasn't there. Her body ached from chores, but her heart ached even more from the silence. Mama still gave her orders. Criticized her cooking. Laughed with her guests about lazy wives these days. Then came the night Ada overheard it. She had walked into the kitchen to grab water when she heard Mama's voice, low but sharp, speaking on the phone. The light was off. Mama didn't know anyone was listening. "Yes, she's still here," she said. "But not for long. Once the girl I picked from the village arrives, I'll handle it. Don't worry. Ebuka is tired too." Ada froze in the darkness. Her heart thumped wildly. A girl from the village. To do what? Replace her. Break her completely. She backed away slowly, tears pooling in her eyes. The next morning, Ebuka asked Ada to sit in the living room. His voice was flat, like he was reading from a script. Mama sat beside him, her face calm but triumphant. "There's a girl coming tomorrow," Ebuka said. "She'll be staying with us for a while. Please, respect her." Ada blinked, confused. "Who is she?" Mama leaned forward. "Her name is Ojeki. Sweet girl. Humble. The type who kneels when greeting elders. The type who listens. Ada's throat dried up. She turned to Ebuka. Are you bringing a second wife? He didn't answer. He didn't even blink. Ada waited for him to deny it. To laugh and say it was a joke. But the silence crushed her. There was no, I'd never do that. Just nothing. A vacuum of betrayal. Her heart slowed. Her limbs felt heavy. Slowly she stood up, walked to the bedroom and began to pack. Not because anyone asked her to, but because she realized there was nothing left for her here. No love. No respect. No home. As she zipped her bag, Mama's words from weeks ago echoed in her mind. You are a mistake that refuses to pack out. Maybe now she wasn't mistaken anymore. Ada didn't cry. She didn't scream. She folded her clothes gently, placed them in her small travel bag, and walked back into the sitting room. She removed her wedding ring and placed it on the center table. The sound of the metal on wood felt louder than thunder. Mama smiled, victorious. Ebuka looked away. Don't worry, Mama said. This time next year, you'll be a forgotten chapter. Ada opened the door slowly. She took one last look around. Then she stepped out, not into peace but into freedom. It was a beginning carved painfully from an ending. As Ada approached the gate, it opened from the outside. A girl stepped in. Young, pretty, faded, dressed in shiny village lace, with polished skin and a hopeful smile. Good afternoon, the girl greeted, bowing slightly. Then her eyes widened. Are you the wife? Ada looked at her for a moment, then nodded slightly. I was, she replied. She didn't say more. She didn't need to. The girl stepped aside. Ada walked past her without turning around. She didn't owe anyone her pain anymore. Let the house behind her become history. She had a future to rebuild. She walked aimlessly through the dusty streets, her feet unsure of where they were going, but her mind sure of one thing: she was not going back. Not to that house. Not to those eyes that never saw her. She ended up at a cheap guest house, paid for a small room with the little she had left, and lay on the stiff mattress. The silence was different here. It wasn't heavy with judgment. It was empty. But in that emptiness, Ada felt something stir. Not fear. Not sorrow. Something like breath. Like space to exist without needing permission. That night, Ada dreamed of her aunt's compound in the village. The mango tree she used to climb. The laughter of children chasing goats. In the dream she was barefoot, running through the dust, free. She woke up with a tear on her cheek and a whisper on her lips. I deserve more. She pulled out her phone and texted a friend she hadn't spoken to in months. Do you know anyone looking for a house help or nanny in Lagos? The reply came quick. I might. Are you okay? Ada stared at the screen. Then she typed. Not yet. But I will be. In the morning, Ada wrapped her scarf, tied her bag to her back, and walked to a small kiosk to buy bread and tea. As she waited for her order, she saw a mother scolding her daughter gently. Say thank you, the woman said. The child smiled and obeyed. Ada watched them. And for the first time in weeks, her lips curved. Small smile. Broken but real. She was nobody's wife anymore. Nobody's maid. Nobody's shame. But she was Ada. And she was still standing. Somewhere in the city of noise and smoke, her story was beginning again. Ada got a call that same evening. Her friend, Ngozi, worked as a cleaner in a private school. The school matron is looking for someone to help with her twin boys. She prefers someone quiet and respectful. Can I give her your number? Ada agreed immediately. She didn't care what the job was, as long as it paid and gave her peace. Within hours, the matron, Madame Ifeoma, called. Her voice was sharp but not unkind. You'll clean, cook simple meals, and look after the boys. If you prove yourself, you can stay longer. Ada accepted without hesitation. She didn't need comfort, just space to heal. By the weekend, Ada had moved into the small quarters behind Madame Ifeoma's bungalow. The room was plain, with a tiny bed and one window, but it was hers. She cleaned thoroughly, arranged her clothes in a neat stack, and breathed deeply. For the first time in weeks, no one shouted her name to criticize her. No one waited to test her patience. The boys were playful but respectful. They asked questions about everything and laughed when she made funny faces. Ada smiled with them. Quietly, gently, her heart began to stretch again. Not wide open but no longer clenched shut. Every night, after the children had gone to bed, Ada sat on her small mattress and wrote in a battered notebook. It was a habit she had almost forgotten. She wrote about everything: her confusion, her pain, the things she wished she had said to Mama, to Ebuka. She wrote her younger self letters filled with comfort. "You didn't fail. You were brave." And she wrote her future self a promise: "I won't let them break you again." These quiet writings became her therapy, her private rebellion against everything they made her believe she wasn't. 3 weeks passed. Ada was efficient, quiet, and respectful. Madame Ifioma noticed. "You're not like most Lagos girls," she said one afternoon while sipping zobo. "You carry pain in your silence, but you never let it leak." Ada didn't know how to reply, so she just smiled and returned to washing dishes. That evening, Madame Ifioma handed her a small envelope. Inside was her first payment. It wasn't much, but it felt heavy with dignity. Ada clutched it tightly. That night, she went to a nearby store and bought herself a pair of soft slippers and a scented bar of soap. Small luxuries, but they felt like gold. At night, memories still visited her. Sometimes she would wake in panic, thinking Mama was calling her, or that Ebuka's silence was pressing against her chest. But each time she woke, she reminded herself, "You are not in that house anymore." One night, the dream was different. She was standing in front of Mama, speaking clearly. "I am not your slave. And I am not your mistake." She woke up with her heart racing and a single tear falling. But this time it wasn't from pain. It was from power. That dream stayed with her like a badge. One Sunday morning, while dusting the sitting room, Ada heard Madame Ifioma call her. "Come and sit," she said. Ada obeyed. The matron placed a small cup of tea before her. "Tell me the truth," she said. "Why did you leave your husband's house?" Ada hesitated. Her chest tightened. "I wasn't safe," she finally said. "His mother hated me. He stopped seeing me." Madame Ifioma nodded slowly. "You're not the first, my dear. Men with mothers who are gods ruin their own homes." She reached across the table and squeezed Ada's hand. "You're safe now." And for the first time, Ada believed it. Weeks turned into months. Ada became trusted in the compound. The children adored her. Neighbors began greeting her by name. She was no longer just the girl who arrived with only a bag and sad eyes. She had rhythm now. Routine. Dignity. One day, she passed a boutique and saw a white dress on display. Not a wedding gown, but a simple cotton shift with embroidery at the edges. She stopped and stared for a long moment. She didn't buy it. Not yet. But she smiled to herself and whispered, "One day." Meanwhile, Ebuka's house had grown quieter. Mama's laughter didn't echo as much anymore. The girl from the village, Ojeki, had not stayed long. Within 6 weeks, she packed her things and left without a word. No one knew why. Mama blamed city demons. Ebuka grew more withdrawn. He barely left the house. His friends stopped calling. The food became bland. The rooms were clean but lifeless. "You drove away peace," a neighbor whispered once as Mama walked past. Ebuka didn't say anything. But deep in his chest, something hollowed out daily, a regret he couldn't name. One afternoon, Ebuka opened an old drawer and found Ada's notebook. She had forgotten it in her rush. He flipped through the pages. "I feel invisible. I wonder if he still sees me." Another page read, "If I vanish today, will he even notice?" The word stung. The handwriting looked tired. He sat there for hours, flipping page after page. His fingers trembled. For the first time since she left, he called her name aloud. "Ada." But no one answered. Just the rustle of a notebook and the bitter silence he helped build. Back in her room, Ada stood by the window, looking out at the city. Lagos moved fast. Cars honking, people shouting, music playing. But in her corner there was calm. She had just transferred money to her aunt in the village. She had applied to an evening school program. She was rebuilding, brick by brick. That night she wrote one final letter in her notebook. Dear Ada, I am proud of you. You walked through fire and didn't let it burn away your soul. You left the ring. You picked up yourself. And that is enough. She signed it with her full name, for the first time in a long while. Days turned into weeks, and Ada found herself laughing more. The twins often pulled pranks on her, like hiding her slippers or slipping Gary into her bathwater, but their mischief warmed her heart. One evening as she braided one of the boys' hair, he asked, Auntie Ada, will you marry again? The question caught her off guard. She smiled gently. Maybe. One day. When I find someone who sees me properly. The boy tilted his head. Like how we see you. Ada paused. Yes, she said softly. Exactly like that. That night she cried. Not out of pain but out of gratitude for small love. Madame Ifeoma's brother, Chuka, came to visit from Port Harcourt. A widower in his early 40s. He was calm, respectful, and observant. He noticed Ada's quiet efficiency. That girl you hired, he told his sister, has strength in her silence. Madame Ifeoma smiled. She's been through a lot. But she never complains. Chuka began spending more time at the house. He asked Ada about her favorite meals, offered to help with groceries, and once brought her a novel he thought she'd like. Ada accepted everything with polite smiles, not realizing the way Chuka had begun to admire her. Genuinely, slowly. One day, while she was peeling yam in the kitchen, Chuka leaned on the doorframe. Can I ask you something, Ada? She looked up surprised. Yes, sir. He smiled. What do you dream about now? Ada hesitated. No one had asked her that since she left Ebuka's house. I dream of finishing school, she said. Opening a small daycare. Helping children grow. Chuka nodded. You'd be good at that. Then he added. You deserve someone who will grow with you. Ada didn't respond, but her hands stopped moving. The yam pieces lay forgotten for a moment as his words lingered in the air. Chuka didn't rush her. He didn't ask for anything. He simply showed up, bringing books, stories, and kindness. Ada noticed that he never spoke over her. He listened. When he offered her a chair, he waited for her to sit. When she spoke, he paid attention. It felt foreign at first, this type of attention without expectation. But slowly, Ada relaxed around him. She began to laugh more freely, share small pieces of her story. One evening, Chuka said, You remind me of my late wife. She was quiet too, but strong like iron. Ada looked down. I'm not strong. I just survived. Meanwhile, Ebuka began visiting churches. He sat through sermons on forgiveness, on the duties of a husband. He prayed quietly, but his mind kept drifting back to Ada. He tried to call her once, but her number had changed. He messaged Ngozi, who replied bluntly, She's doing fine. Please don't disturb her peace. He stared at that message for hours. One Sunday he walked into a shop and bought a new wedding ring. He kept it in his pocket for days. But deep down he knew. Some things don't return just because you're ready. Love doesn't wait forever. Mama was less vocal these days. After Ojeki left, the neighbors whispered about how her pride had driven everyone away. One cousin even told her bluntly, You broke your own house. Mama scoffed in public, but in private, she stayed in bed longer, stopped cooking, and prayed loudly at midnight. God, show me mercy, she cried. Bring my son's wife back. But even the heavens were quiet. Ebuka tried to comfort her, but there was a coldness between them now. Something broken that no jollof rice or apologies could fix. In December, Ada got a surprise. A letter from the school's headmistress. We're offering you a scholarship for evening classes, it read. We see potential in you. She blinked, rereading the lines, then laughed aloud in disbelief. She ran to Madame Ifeoma's kitchen and hugged her. "Thank you, Ma. I didn't even apply." The older woman smiled. "I did. I see your worth, Ada. It's time the world does too." That evening, Ada bought herself the white cotton dress from the boutique. Not for a man. Not for a ceremony. But because she deserved to feel beautiful again. One Saturday afternoon, Chuka brought a cake to the compound. "What's the occasion?" Ada asked, wiping her hands on a towel. "It's your halfway mark," he said. 3 months in class. You haven't missed a day." Ada laughed. "You're counting." Chuka nodded. "I'm watching you bloom." Her cheeks flushed. She hadn't blushed in years. They ate the cake in the backyard, surrounded by flowers and the giggles of the twins playing nearby. It wasn't a date, but it felt like one. When he left that day, Ada stood at the gate for a while, watching him disappear down the road. That night, she opened her old notebook. She flipped past pages filled with pain, pages soaked in tears, and stopped at the last letter she had written herself. She added a new line. "You are allowed to love again. Just don't forget who you are in the process." She closed the book, kissed it gently, and tucked it under her pillow. She didn't know if Chuka loved her, or if she was ready to love him. But she knew one thing. This time she wouldn't beg to be seen. She would never again shrink herself for a seat at someone else's table. At the end of the year, during a small neighborhood Christmas party, Chuka asked Ada for a dance. She hesitated. The music was soft, the lights dim. The twins clapped excitedly. "Auntie Ada, say yes." She finally smiled and nodded. As they danced under the glow of paper lanterns, Ada whispered, "Do you know I once thought I was unlovable?" Chuka looked at her and replied, "Then they didn't know how to love right." She let herself lean into his warmth, not because she needed saving, but because she had saved herself first. And now she was choosing joy. The new year brought quiet changes. Ada began her second term of evening classes and added morning literacy sessions for young children in the neighborhood. She would gather them on a mat in Madame Ifeoma's backyard and teach them simple words, colors, and how to count. The parents were grateful. "Auntie Ada is patient," they'd say. The children loved her songs and stories. One little girl named Zuri clung to her every morning, whispering, "I want to grow up like you." Ada would smile and ruffle her hair. "Grow up better than me," she'd say. "Grow with wings." On her birthday, Chuka surprised her with a simple celebration. Just the twins, Madame Ifeoma, a few neighbors, and a cake shaped like a book. Ada laughed until her ribs hurt. Chuka handed her a wrapped box. Inside was a pen with her name engraved on it. "Because you're writing a new chapter," he said. Ada blinked back tears. No one had ever given her anything so thoughtful. Later that night, as she sat alone on her bed, she stared at the pen and whispered, "Thank you, God, for not letting me stay where I wasn't seen." Word of Ada's progress eventually reached Ebuka through a mutual friend. "She's glowing," the friend said. "She teaches now. Heard she might open a school." Ebuka laughed nervously. "Ada." The friend nodded. "She's not the girl who left your house, bro. She's something else now." That night, Ebuka looked at the ring he had bought months ago. It still sat in his drawer, untouched. He opened it, stared at the band, then closed it again. For the first time he realized, some doors don't wait open forever. And some women, when they rise, don't look back. Mama fell ill not long after. Nothing major at first, just fatigue and headaches. But slowly, her strength faded. She asked to see Ada. Ebuka called, unsure if she'd even answer. To his surprise, Ada picked up. He spoke softly, unsure how to begin. "Mama is sick," he said. "She's asking for you." There was silence. Then Ada replied, "I'll come. But not as a daughter-in-law. Just as a human being." Ebuka didn't argue. When she arrived, Mama was lying on a mat, weak but alert. She smiled faintly. "You came." Ada nodded. "Yes, 'cause I've healed. And I'm no longer angry." They sat in silence for a while. Mama coughed lightly, then reached out. I was wrong, Ada. I let pride ruin everything. You didn't deserve what I did. Ada didn't cry. She didn't reach back either. She simply replied, "Thank you for saying that. I needed it. Years ago." Mama nodded slowly. "I pray you find peace. True peace." Ada stood up, adjusted her wrapper and said gently, "I already have. And I hope you do too." She walked out of the room without bitterness. Closure didn't always come with hugs. Sometimes it came with calm exits. On her way out, Ada ran into Ebuka. He looked older, worn, like a man who had run a marathon barefoot. "You look well," he said. She nodded. "I am." He hesitated, then asked, "Do you ever think about us?" Ada looked at him carefully. "I used to. It grieved us. But I've let it go." He exhaled, as if bracing for those words. "I'm sorry," he finally said. "For everything." She gave him a sad smile. "I hope you learn to love better. For the next woman." And with that she walked away. Free. Fully this time. Ada returned to her life with renewed purpose. The encounter with her past didn't shake her. If anything, it reminded her of how far she'd come. Chuka noticed something different in her eyes that evening. "You feel lighter," he said. "Like you dropped something heavy." She nodded. "I did. The weight of someone else's apology." They sat under the tree near the back gate, sharing roasted corn and laughter. "Can I ask you something?" Chuka said. She looked at him, waiting. "When you're ready. Would you consider building something with me?" Ada didn't answer immediately. She just whispered, "Maybe." Weeks passed. The children's literacy group grew. The headmistress offered to let Ada use a vacant classroom. Donations started pouring in. Books, chalkboards, mats. Ada named the initiative Little Roots Learning Center. "Because even the smallest seeds deserve to grow," she explained to the kids. Every Saturday more children came. And every day Ada's name spread. No longer attached to Ebuka, no longer whispered in pity. She was becoming a woman of purpose. A woman with her own story. Her own space. Her own name. That rainy afternoon, Chuka came again. This time he brought more than gifts. He brought a small box. No fanfare. No music. Just quiet conviction. "You don't have to say yes today," he said. "But I'd be honored to walk beside you at your pace, on your terms." Ada opened the box slowly. Inside was a bracelet. Not a ring, with the words still standing engraved. She smiled. "This time," she said softly, "I won't lose myself." Chuka nodded. "And I won't let you." She didn't answer with words. Just a smile that said maybe had turned to yes. On the day Ada registered Little Roots as an official community school, she wore the white cotton dress. She stood before the children, the parents, and the neighbors who had watched her journey. She gave a short speech. "This school is not just for learning ABCs. It's for every child who needs to know they matter. That they can grow, no matter how small they feel." The applause was loud. But louder still was the quiet knowing in her heart. She had survived fire, but she didn't come out ashes. She came out gold. The school grew faster than Ada had imagined. Within 3 months, she had 2 volunteer teachers, a chalkboard sponsor, and 25 children enrolled. Some of the mothers cried when they saw their children writing their names for the first time. Ada watched with pride as Zuri, the little girl who once clung to her wrapper, read a full sentence aloud. "You gave her a future," one mother said tearfully. Ada shook her head gently. She always had it. Someone just had to remind her. That's what Ada was doing for herself too, reminding the girl inside her that she had always mattered. One evening, she visited her aunt in the village. The woman hugged her tight, eyes shining with pride. "You are no longer the quiet girl I raised," she said. "You are light now." They sat on the porch drinking pap, watching the sunset. Her aunt asked, "Are you in love again?" Ada smiled. "I am, but with myself first." Her aunt laughed. "Good. Because the woman who knows her worth doesn't lose it when a man walks away." Ada nodded. That night, she lay under the stars and whispered a prayer, not for revenge or answers, but for continued peace. Ebuka married again. This time it was a quiet ceremony. No noise. No crowd. People noticed he seemed more subdued, less proud. His new wife was kind, they said. But no one missed the way he paused any time someone mentioned a community school or a woman who built herself from the ground up. Mama never fully regained her strength. She lived with her brother in Ilorin, away from gossip. Sometimes she'd call and ask about that girl, and Ebuka would answer softly, "Is doing well. Better than all of us, I think." And he would hang up with a sigh. Ada didn't wish them harm. She simply stopped wishing them anything. Her energy was focused elsewhere, on children, on building, on healing. She gave talks to women in nearby markets, encouraging them to seek strength beyond tradition. Being a wife is not a reward, she would say. Being a whole woman is. The women clapped, some with tears in their eyes. Many came up afterward just to hug her. "You've been through something, I can tell," one old trader said. Ada smiled. "Yes. But I've come through it too." She had become more than a survivor. She was now a guide. Chuka proposed again, this time with a ring. No audience. Just Ada, a quiet garden, and a candle flickering between them. "Whatever your answer, I'll still be proud of you," he said. Ada looked at him, heart steady. "Yes," she whispered. "But this time I walk in with my eyes open, my heart full, and my voice loud." He nodded. Then we walked together. Their wedding months later was simple. Small crowd. No lace drama. But there was joy. Deep, mature joy. Ada didn't wear a veil. She said, "Nothing about me is hidden anymore." And Chuka said, "Thank God for that." Little Roots moved to a bigger location. A yellow building with 2 classrooms and an office. Ada stood outside with her staff and the children, cutting a ribbon made of Ankara cloth. Reporters came. Photos were taken. Someone asked, "How did this begin?" She smiled. "With a door locked from the outside. And a woman who decided never to let anyone lock her soul again." The article went viral. Donations poured in. A governor's wife visited. But through it all, Ada remained grounded. She taught phonics every Monday morning. Swept the hall when the cleaner was absent. She never forgot the beginning. On the anniversary of the day she left Ebuka's house, Ada returned to that street. She didn't go in. She didn't knock. She stood across the road, watching the gate quietly. She wasn't angry. She wasn't curious. She was just closing a circle. She whispered, "Thank you for pushing me out." Then she turned away, her back straight, her chin high. A young woman walked past her, crying softly. Ada reached into her purse and gave her a tissue. "You'll be fine," she said gently. "This pain doesn't last forever." The girl looked at her, confused. But Ada just smiled and kept walking. Every year on her birthday, Ada now does 2 things. She buys a white dress and donates books to a rural school. The dress is symbolic. Purity, not of perfection, but of rebirth. "I wear white not because I'm a bride," she says, "but because I survived what tried to bury me." Children now draw her in their books. Parents name babies after her. But Ada never lets it get to her head. "I'm just a woman who didn't give up," she often says. "And if I didn't, then neither should you." She had become the woman she once needed. One evening, Ada sat by the window, watching the sunset with her daughter asleep in her lap. Yes, she had a daughter now. A miracle baby born after 3 years of waiting. Her name, Zikora, which means show the world. Chuka walked in, smiled at the scene, and kissed both their foreheads. "Another book idea?" he asked, nodding at Ada's notepad. She laughed. "Something like that." But what she was really writing was a letter to Zikora. "I hope you never feel you need to shrink to be loved. I hope you know your strength early. I hope you never forget your name." And so Ada lived, not perfectly but fully. With love that didn't suffocate. With a voice that no one silenced.